Okay. Welcome to our careers interview for today. We're very lucky to have Miss, how do I pronounce it? Cinquemani?
Good enough. Cinque Mani, that's fine.
Cinquemani. Okay, brilliant. And do you want to explain sort of your job and how you got there?
Okay, so I am the founder of a company called Green Gorilla. And what we do at Green Gorilla, we train people, and especially sustainability professionals, and we also coach them. We do career coaching for them. So it's a bit of a niche work type of work, but it's filling a gap in the market, which focuses on people's strengths and soft skills instead of technical skills. So that's how what I do at the moment, but I haven't done that all the time.
Yes, so as part of this interview, I meant to introduce myself. So I'm Tian, I'm from London and I'm in year 12. And the A levels I do are maths, further maths, geography and art. And I think this is why we were paired together for an interview. But my dream job would be to set up my own sustainable architecture firm. And I believe you used to practice as an architect.
Yes, indeed. I started, I think about 20 years ago, working as an architect in London. I practiced for about 3 years, but this is very early days for sustainability in a way. So at that time, it wasn't that widespread as a discipline. So I decided to focus more on sustainability. So I did a master's degree on sustainable building and energy efficiency. And then I became a sustainability consultant. So I actually moved from architecture to sustainability consultancy, helping architects actually to make their buildings more sustainable.
Yeah, actually, one of my sort of architectural inspiration is, I might pronounce this wrong, but Bjarke Engel's group.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and his work in Copenhagen, especially his building with the ski slope on top of the power plant, that really inspired me. So what sort of caused you to change from practicing as an architect to helping others? Like, are you just more of a people person and you felt that helping people rather than building things was the way to go?
Taking into consideration that, as I said, sustainability, when I graduated and I started working in the field, was a bit of, a strange thing to do in a way. It wasn't mainstream at all. It's not mainstream now, so we need a lot more work for that, but still now it's a lot more widespread. So back then I didn't see myself being an architect and not integrating sustainability in every single project I was doing. Obviously, at the beginning, you are a bit of a junior, you can't really take your own decisions. So I really wanted to do something more meaningful. That's, I think, what sparked my curiosity for sustainability. And I really wanted to make, architecture more, more integrated with nature and to serve people better. Because as you know, often architecture is a bit, it's just the facade in a way, it's just the envelope, but not what's in there inside. And people need to live, work and play in a way that is integrated with nature, and it doesn't have an impact for years and years to come. So that's why I think it was really for the love of the environment that I decided to go for that.
Do you have any specific projects in mind when you think of integrating architecture with nature? And could you explain those in more detail?
In terms of specific projects, now, you mentioned one architect that is really doing a good job there. But I think more and more firms nowadays are thinking along those lines. Now, the key point for me, beside the single example, is that architecture and sustainability shouldn't be two different things. It should be the same thing. Because when you talk about sustainable architecture, it's just architecture that makes sense. construction that has it's common sense to do, to try not to waste the materials. So why would you want to start a project and wanted to throw away half of the materials you got there? It doesn't make sense. So when you talk about waste and energy and water conservation and all of these beautiful things that are, in a word is sustainability, it's just architecture that makes sense. It's just, or for example, access to nature and access to the outdoors. That's what, human beings should do all the time. We are alienated from nature, while, more and more there is, for example, what was I saying? So, for example, there is this new current of architecture, which is biophilia. So integrating nature within buildings, because it's been demonstrated that people are healthier inside buildings, they are happier, they produce more, they work better. So it just makes sense, to be fair. So all of this together means sustainability, but actually for me is just a synonym of quality.
How do you think sort of architecture and sustainability will develop over the next 5-10 years, especially with like urban sprawl and increasing population in cities?
Now, there are lots of pioneering projects where you will see, for example, sustainable architecture integrated into skyscrapers or high-rise buildings, or even, I don't know how great is that, but even digging deep down and having, buildings actually go below ground. I don't think I would like that, but anyway, but definitely with more density, we need to get out of the idea of the single house with, a little garden, and move to a more, a more apt way of doing sustainable architecture in a city. But also the key there is integration. I think it's about having cities that work well as a system. So is access to outdoor spaces where people can, do sport or walk or whatever, as well as houses and buildings that don't make people sick. And transport that is efficient, and smart meters to automatically, for example, control the temperature or the humidity inside places. So technology has to be integrated, but to serve a purpose, the purpose of making people happier, healthier, and the environment, less, and harm less the environment.
And in terms of London, how do you feel London fits into this? Like, are we doing well as a city, or are we sort of lagging behind other innovative cities? I think especially because we had the regeneration of the E20 area as the aftermath of our London 2012 Olympics. So like, how do you feel about that in general?
London is a very complex city. The thing is, there is so much history in it that it's hard to balance innovation, and with innovation comes as well sustainability sometimes, and as like I was explaining a minute ago, and history. And it takes a lot of effort to put together these two things meaningfully. However, other cities have done it, and they are doing it in a better way, I would say, than London. I mean, I think the current mayor is actually quite enlightened, and so the plan for London for the next few years is integrating even circular economy. So trying to limit the amount of waste that goes to landfill, and actually re-employing it in a way that serves again a purpose. So it sort of goes in circles instead of going out as waste. But cities like Glasgow, for example, are Glasgow is one of the first ones that is going to be a smart city, and a city where there's going to be a lot more focus on sustainability. So I think it is possible, but as I said, it needs a bit of what we call system thinking. So thinking about different parts, not just the solutions isolated. And for London, that is huge, and you got millions of inhabitants. It is a big challenge. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And you know the term like carbon neutral,
Mhm.
like countries wanting to go net zero, hotels wanting to be carbon neutral. Sort of what do you think of that? Like, do you think it's possible, or do you think it's just like a phrase people coin to use?
Okay, it's hard. So carbon neutral or net zero is something that theoretically is being established by law. By 2050, the whole of the UK should be carbon neutral. That was the legacy from Theresa May. The last thing she did was that. However, in practice, I can't see things moving fast enough. That would mean carbon neutral. It doesn't mean that we don't produce any carbon emissions. It means that we balance them out with, so we extract carbon emissions from the atmosphere. We do activities like planting trees or finding other ways to increase the amount of carbon that gets, extracted from the atmosphere in a natural way or not natural way, but it's also, increasing renewable energy sources, and so cleaning up our act 360 degrees. So unless this is done on from now on, for example, there is no opportunity, for example, to use fossil fuels. Is very hard because, for example, the use of fossil fuels for lots of activities is causing a lot of the problems, and that should be the first thing to go out, and be absolutely banned. So I think it's possible if everyone is pulling together in the same direction. It's possible if governments really invest cleverly in renewable energy sources, in new solutions, in planting trees, in other carbon sequestration, this is what it's called, activities. So to really try and neutralize all these carbon emissions that we are creating. So it is possible, but it needs a huge effort.
Yeah, for those who are watching this, carbon sequestration is like the process of capturing carbon from our atmosphere and storing it. And there are various methods you can do this. The most common one is planting more trees, because trees and biomass are a massive carbon sink. And they're also looking into methods of storing more carbon in our oceans, especially like amongst plankton and other marine creatures. So back to Miss Cinque Mani, do you have any like daily behaviors that you try and incorporate into your daily routine to help the environment? And it doesn't have to be involved with architecture or anything.
Yeah, well, I try to run my company. It's only a micro business, so it's just me and a few collaborators that come in and out. But I try and run my company as a carbon neutral company. So as part of our operation, we plant trees through ecology with an eye at the end on a regular basis to offset any carbon that we might generate with our operations. Although at the moment it's easy enough to limit travel, of course. So there is very little travel going on, but also the company has been funded since day one as an online company. So all the training, all the coaching is done online, so no transport involved and no carbon emissions from there. The electricity we buy is 100% renewable. We try and recycle everything. So limit the impact as much as possible. In my private life, I do exactly the same. I'm vegan, for example, because I know that is one of the biggest personal contributions you can make to the world, to actually not eat animal derived food. And and then everything else, so that you can, the common sense stuff from recycling to try and limit my car journeys, etc., etc. So I am trying and embody all my values in what I do every day.
That's really great. I think that's definitely an example of how other people can learn from you. I myself, I haven't committed to going vegan yet, but I've been trying to eat more vegetarian at school. And also I have this thing with paper where I hate using more sheets of paper for some reason. And it's gotten to the point where even my maths teacher's like, Tian, when you do your homework, you need to lay it out nicely, and that requires more pieces of paper than you're currently squishing your homework onto. So I guess it's always a fine balance of like what's practical and what you sort of what you sort of can do for the environment. So how do you feel like your company stands out from other companies to do with sustainability?
I decided, like I was saying right at the beginning, to focus on a specific aspect of sustainability. And so my ultimate aim with Green Gorilla is to enable sustainability professionals to have a voice. So help them to communicate better, help them to sell sustainability in an ethical way, and becoming stronger, more assertive. Because I think if people that have this knowledge, this technical knowledge, don't, are unable to communicate the message, then, why have they studied? Why are they doing that job? So I think communication especially is one of the key skills that everyone should really master, and presentation skills, but also listening, listening attentively to clients or other people to really understand why, for example, they wouldn't adopt a sustainable solution. Sometimes it's because they don't understand it. Sometimes it's because they don't know enough. So only by listening to people, you can actually help them and provide that solution for them, which is also, which happens to be sustainable. So the company that I'm running provides training courses and coaching programs for sustainability professionals or people aspiring to become sustainability professionals to acquire all those other skills that are not technical and becoming stronger green gorillas. So that's the that's why the name.
It's a very catchy name. Great choice. Yeah, I think leading on from that, we actually were interviewing a counsellor the other day, and she said one of the hardest aspects of her job is like convincing, not to stereotype like some stodgy, old, not so radical people, mostly males, that climate change is real and that solutions need to be implemented. So it's like similarly along those lines, have you had any difficulties like convincing people to like join the climate crisis fight? Do you ever feel like people undermine you in the workplace?
Look, I am foreigner. I used to be a young girl coming from, another place in the world and wanting to change the world. So I really was a prize cow when I started all of this. Still I am a little bit, it's hard for people that are not, as you said, middle-aged white men. It's hard sometimes to have that influence and that power. But, well, confidence comes with time for sure. But I have had my fair share of people not really taking me seriously or into consideration because of my ideas, but also because the bias that comes with being female, foreigner, and all that stuff. So I don't think the world has moved forward that much in the last 20 years since this happened to me. And I still encounter the occasional person that doesn't really believe what I'm trying to tell them. But the key there is taking them to, in a word, is speaking the language. So if, for example, you speak to a client one day when you start working, and you speak to a client and that client is only interested in profit, which happens very often, then how can you help them make that profit by using a sustainable solution? So you are not going, you need to save the world, you need to, the house is on fire, etc., etc., because that language might not resonate with them. But if you try and understand, and that's where the listening comes in, if you try and understand who you got in front of you and what are their needs, then you can help them and support them with sustainability, because sustainability is amazing. And as I said, is a synonym of quality. So why wouldn't you want, a quality product? Why wouldn't you want a quality process? So just paint it as a quality process, not sustainability. Sometimes I don't even say sustainability. I just present the solution as something that addresses that particular challenge for my client. So I don't care, I'm going to go on and, make change. And if I manage to kill two birds with one stone by getting them to adopt my solution and at the same time being a sustainable solution, then I'm happy. So I think that's the key, mainly trying to understand what difficulty they have in adoption, whether that is because they don't understand or whether it is because they think is, for example, there are lots of myths around sustainability costs extra money. You know, sustainability is expensive, which is not always true. So again, a little bit of work on that and understanding who you got in front of you can help, you know, pushing sustainability even to the hardest, you know, of potential clients.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really important message. It's like, I think it's really important to persevere, especially when people just roll your eyes at you when you say like climate change or sustainability. And I think rounding this to an end now, do you have any top tips or like messages to people my age or even younger about what they should do and look into in their future?
I think it's never early enough to start thinking about your values and what you stand for. And I think the power of the younger generations is that you still have that enthusiasm and that passion, and you really want to make a change, and you don't think about so much about the consequences. And that's amazing. If you can manage to challenge that with your values, so you believe in, you know, in a better world and a cleaner world and, you know, in change, then just keep that goal in mind. Don't get disheartened, because it's true, you know, lots of people, especially older people, are a bit more, you know, disheartened, really. They might be a bit critical, or they have other priorities. Well, if you keep your goals in mind, you just keep on going. And as you know, another thing I would say is associate with others, group with others, you know, join the movements and join people that you admire, you know, people that really are making a change. Because if one individual is powerful, a group of individuals is unbeatable. So do come together in groups and organize movements, because I think that is going to really change the world. I'm very optimistic about, you know, you guys and, you know, the next generation, that because we've made a big mess for you, but I think we can help you with our experience to actually change things for the better. And because you have the power and the strength and the years in front of you to actually do it. So just keep on persevering, keep your resilience up, take care of yourselves. That's the other thing, because it can be a bit disheartening, it can be a bit depressing. Just, you know, do the stuff that, you know, makes you feel good, you know, the normal eat, drink, do your exercise, meditate, or whatever you like, because you need your energies for this.
Thank you. That was such a lovely message. And speaking of numbers, this interview is going to go out to like loads of primary and secondary schools across the whole of England and in general the UK. So on that note, thank you so much. And that is the end of our careers interview.
Thank you for having me, and good luck.
Thank you.